The warning alarms screamed inside the ship. Nari grabbed the controls with both hands, trying to keep the small craft steady. Outside the windows, she could see 3 pirate ships closing in. Their weapons fired again and again, hitting her shields with bright flashes of light. "Come on, come on," she whispered, pushing the engine harder. Her species, the Velkans, were known across the galaxy as the best warriors. She had fought in many battles and survived them all. But today was different. Today, she was alone. Another blast hit her ship. This time, the shields broke completely. The next shot tore through the hull, and Nari felt the ship shake violently. Smoke filled the cabin. The control panel sparked and went dark. She was going down. Nari tried to aim for a flat area on the planet below, but the ship was spinning too fast. Ice and snow covered everything she could see. This world, called Keswick 7, was listed in the star maps as uninhabitable. No colonies, no stations, nothing. Just frozen wasteland. The ship hit the ground hard. Nari's head smashed against the side wall. Her vision went blurry. She tasted blood in her mouth. The ship slid across the ice for what felt like forever, then finally stopped. Everything was quiet except for the wind howling outside. Nari tried to move. Pain shot through her entire body. She looked down and saw purple blood covering her uniform. That was bad. Velkans had 2 hearts, and she could only feel one beating. Her left wing membrane, which normally folded against her back, was torn and useless. 3 of her ribs were broken, she could tell. She unbuckled her safety harness and fell to the floor. The ship was tilted on its side. Every movement hurt, but she forced herself to crawl toward the emergency exit. The medical bay was completely destroyed. All the supplies were scattered or broken. No help there. Nari pushed the exit door open. Cold air rushed in, so cold it burned her lungs. She had never felt anything like it. The temperature was far below freezing. She pulled herself outside and fell into the snow. The sky above was gray and dark. Wind blew ice crystals that stung her skin. She could see her ship behind her, broken and smoking. A trail of purple blood followed her path in the white snow. Nari knew the rescue protocols. When a Velkan scout ship went missing, they would search for it. But it took time, usually 10 days, sometimes more. She had maybe 3 days before she died from her injuries. Maybe less in this cold. She tried to activate her emergency beacon, but it was broken in the crash. She tried her communication device, also broken. She had nothing. Nari dragged herself away from the ship. If the pirates came back to check, she didn't want to be right next to the crash site. Every meter was agony. Her blood left a clear trail in the snow, but she couldn't help that. After crawling about 50 meters, she couldn't go any further. Her strength was gone. She rolled onto her back and looked up at the gray sky. Snowflakes fell on her face. This was it then. She had survived the Battle of Crimson Nebula, where thousands died. She had fought the Krellian invasion and won medals for bravery. And now she would die alone on a frozen rock that no one cared about. Nari started to sing the death chants of her people. It was tradition. Every Velkan learned these songs as children. They were meant to guide the spirit home. Her voice was weak, and the wind almost drowned it out, but she sang anyway. The cold was getting worse. She couldn't feel her feet anymore. Her good wing stopped moving. Her one working heart was beating slower and slower. She could feel herself fading. Something moved at the edge of her vision. Nari turned her head slightly. Through the blowing snow, she saw shapes moving toward her. Animals, probably. This planet must have scavengers who smelled blood. They would eat her body after she died. That was fine. That was nature. But then she saw the shapes more clearly. They weren't animals. They were bigger than that. 4 of them walking on 4 legs each, pulling something behind them. And riding on the thing they pulled was a figure, a person. Nari's eyes widened. Someone lived here? On this frozen death world? The figure came closer. The four-legged animals were some kind of beasts, and they pulled a flat vehicle across the snow. The person jumped down and ran toward her. Nari tried to warn them away. She tried to speak, but only a weak sound came out. Velkan blood was acidic. Touching it could burn, and she was a trained warrior. Even dying, she might be dangerous. But the person didn't stop. They knelt down beside her in the snow. Nari could see them better now. They were small, much smaller than her. They wore a thick suit to protect against the cold. When they pulled back their hood, Nari saw a face unlike any species she knew. Smooth skin, dark eyes, black hair, only 2 arms, 2 legs, no tail, no wings, no special features. This was a human. She had heard of them. They were new to the galaxy, not very important. Most species thought they were weak and unimpressive. The human said something in a language she didn't understand. Then they reached for a device on their belt and pressed some buttons. When they spoke again, Nari's translator caught the words. "Don't move," the human said. "I'm going to help you." Nari wanted to tell them it was hopeless, wanted to explain that Velkan biology was too complex, that the injuries were too severe, that they should just leave her to die in peace. But the human was already working. They pulled out a small kit and opened it. They had bandages, chemicals, tools. With quick, efficient movements, they started treating her wounds. Nari watched in amazement as the human mixed chemicals together and poured them on her blood. The acid neutralized immediately. How did they know to do that? They wrapped her broken ribs with bandages that hardened into a solid support. They gave her an injection of something that made her heart beat stronger. "My name is Tai Min," the human said while working. "I have a shelter not far from here. Can you hold on for a little while longer?" Nari tried to answer, but couldn't. The human, Tai Min, didn't wait for a response. They stood up and whistled. The four-legged animals came closer. Tai Min lifted Nari carefully and somehow, despite being so much smaller, managed to put her on the flat vehicle. The last thing Nari remembered before passing out was the feeling of movement. The vehicle sliding across the snow, the wind howling, and the human walking beside her, guiding the animals through the storm. She had been alone and dying, but then this small, weak human had come out of nowhere to save her. Nari's last thought before darkness took her was a question: why? Nari woke up to warmth. Real warmth, not the cold numbness of dying. She tried to open her eyes, but everything was blurry. Her body ached everywhere, but the sharp, terrible pain from before was gone. Instead, there was a dull throb that meant she was healing. She lay still and listened. She could hear wind outside howling and angry. But inside, wherever she was, it was quiet and warm. She heard footsteps, someone moving around. "You're awake," a voice said. The translator in her ear turned the words into something she could understand. "Don't try to move yet. You're still very hurt." Nari's vision cleared slowly. She was lying on a soft surface in a small room. The walls were metal, curved like a dome. Lights hung from the ceiling, giving off a gentle glow. She could see equipment and tools organized neatly on shelves. In the corner was a small cooking area with steam rising from a pot. The human, Tai Min, came into view. He looked tired, with dark circles under his eyes. He carried a bowl of something that smelled strange but not unpleasant. "How long?" Nari managed to ask. Her voice was rough and weak. "2 days," Tai Min said. He set the bowl down on a table near her. "You were in bad shape." "Very bad. I wasn't sure you would make it through the first night." Nari looked down at herself. Someone had removed her torn uniform and dressed her wounds properly. Bandages covered most of her torso. Her wing was carefully wrapped and supported. She could feel both her hearts beating now, slow but steady. "How did you do this?" she asked. "My species. We're complicated. Our biology is not like others. Taemin shrugged. I read your medical data from your suit's computer. It was damaged, but I fixed it enough to get the information. Then I just figured it out. Just figured it out. Nari stared at him. She was a Velkan warrior, one of the most advanced species in the galaxy. Their medical science was sophisticated and took years to learn, and this human had just figured it out in a few hours. Your blood, Taemin continued, sitting down on a chair near her. It's acidic. I used a basic compound to neutralize it. Your people have 2 hearts, and one of yours was damaged. I couldn't fix it completely, but I gave it medicine to help it heal itself. Your bones are denser than mine, but the principle is the same. Stabilize them and they'll mend. He made it sound so simple. Nari knew it wasn't. Why? She asked. Why help me? You don't know me. I could be dangerous. I could be a criminal. Taemin looked at her with those dark eyes. You were dying, he said. That's all I needed to know. Over the next few hours, Nari learned more about her rescuer. Taemin lived alone on this frozen planet, running a small mining operation. He dug up valuable minerals from deep underground and sold them to passing traders once every few months. It was hard, lonely work, but he seemed content with it. Why here? Nari asked. Why choose such a terrible place to live? Taemin was quiet for a moment. He stirred the pot on the stove, not looking at her. I had a wife once, he said finally. Her name was Haiwan. She got sick, a disease that the advanced species could cure easily. But they wouldn't help her. They said humans weren't worth the medicine. We breed fast enough, they said. Losing a few doesn't matter. His voice was calm, but Nari could hear the pain underneath. She died in my arms. After that, I didn't want to be around people anymore. I came here to be alone. Nari felt shame wash over her. She had thought similar things about other species. The weak ones, the primitive ones. They didn't matter as much as Velkans did. That's what she had been taught. That's what she believed. I'm sorry, she said quietly. Taemin brought her the bowl. It contained a thick soup. Can you eat this? I made it from the planet's plants. They're toxic to most species, but I learned how to process them safely. I'm not sure if it's safe for you, though. Nari took the bowl. She was hungry enough to try anything. The soup was warm and tasted strange, but not bad. As she ate, she watched Taemin move around the small shelter. Despite his size, he moved with efficiency and purpose. He checked equipment, made repairs, organized supplies. Everything he did was careful and precise. How long have you been here? She asked between sips. 3 years, Taemin said. At first it was hard. The cold, the isolation, the dangerous animals. But humans are good at adapting. We have to be. He showed her his home properly. The shelter was a dome about 10 meters across. Heat came from pipes connected to volcanic vents deep underground. The human had built everything himself. The water system, the air recyclers, the power generators. It was impressive work for one person. On my world, Taemin explained, we have a saying, necessity is the mother of invention. When you need to survive, you learn fast. Nari thought about her own people. Velkans were strong and proud, but they relied on their technology, their support systems. If a Velkan was stranded alone like this, they would wait for rescue. They wouldn't adapt. They would just endure until help came, or they died. But humans were different. This one had turned a frozen hell into a home. Days passed. Nari grew stronger slowly. Taemin took care of her without complaint, even though it meant extra work for him. He changed her bandages, gave her medicine he made himself, and kept her company. He told her about Earth, the human home world. It sounded terrible. Extreme weather that could kill in minutes, predators that hunted in packs, diseases that swept across continents. natural disasters that destroyed entire cities. And yet humans thrived there. They built civilizations despite everything trying to kill them. "We're not the strongest," Taemin said one evening as they ate together, "or the fastest or the smartest. But we don't give up. Ever. It's not in our nature." Nari understood now why the Galactic Council watched humans carefully. It wasn't their weapons or their ships. It was this stubborn, irrational refusal to quit. That made them dangerous in a way other species weren't. On the 5th day, Nari could stand on her own. Her wing was still healing, but her ribs felt better. Both hearts were beating normally. She walked around the shelter, testing her strength. "You're a good healer," she told Taemin. "Better than some trained Velkan doctors I've known." Taemin smiled. It was the first time she had seen him smile. "I just did what needed to be done." That night, Nari couldn't sleep. She lay on her bed and thought about everything. This human had saved her life for no reason except that it was the right thing to do. He had asked for nothing in return, expected nothing. He had just helped because someone needed help. In all her years as a warrior serving the Velkan Empire, she had never met anyone quite like that. Her people helped their own. They had honor and duty, but they didn't help strangers, especially not aliens from unknown species. Humans were supposed to be weak and unimportant, but this one had done something impossible. He had saved a Velkan warrior using nothing but determination and basic tools. Nari made a decision that night. If she survived this, if she got rescued, she would tell everyone what humans were really capable of. She would make sure her people understood. But first, she had to survive. And as she finally drifted off to sleep, she felt something she hadn't felt in days. Hope. The morning of the 7th day started like the others. Nari woke to the smell of Taemin cooking breakfast. She could move much better now, though her wing still ached and she couldn't fold it properly. The human had done an amazing job healing her, but some injuries just took time. She sat up and watched Taemin work at the small stove. He moved with the same calm efficiency he did everything. There was no wasted motion, no rushing, just steady, careful work. "How do you do it?" Nari asked suddenly. "Live here alone? Don't you get lonely?" Taemin was quiet for a moment. He poured hot liquid into 2 cups and brought one to her. It was a drink he called tea, made from processed plants. Nari had learned to like it. "Sometimes," he admitted. "But loneliness is better than being around people who don't value life. After HFY died, I couldn't stand being in the city anymore. Everyone just went on with their lives like nothing happened. Like she didn't matter." He sat down across from her. "Here, I matter. What I do matters. When a ship passes by and I sell them minerals, I've accomplished something real. When I fix a broken machine, I've solved a real problem. It's simple, but it's honest." Nari understood that feeling. As a warrior, she had always known her purpose. Fight for the Empire, protect Velkan interests, follow orders. But she had never really questioned why. She just did it because that's what warriors did. "Tell me about being a warrior," Taemin said, as if reading her thoughts. "What's it like?" Nari sipped her tea. "It's all I've ever known. Velkans are born into castes. I was born into the warrior caste, so I became a warrior. I trained from the time I could walk. Fighting, tactics, weapons, ships, everything." "Did you choose it?" Taemin asked. The question confused her. "Choose? No. It's what I am." "But did you want to be a warrior?" Nari had never really thought about it. I don't know. It never seemed like there was another option. This is what Velkans do. We serve the Empire." Taemin nodded slowly. "Humans aren't like that. We can choose what we become. I was a teacher before I came here. I taught children about history and science. HFY was a doctor. We chose those paths because we wanted to help people." The idea fascinated Nari. A whole species where anyone could become anything. Where your birth didn't determine your future. It seemed chaotic, but also strangely beautiful. Over the next hours, they talked more. Taimin told her about Earth's history, about wars and peace, invention and discovery, about humans who changed the world just by refusing to accept how things were. "We had a saying from one of our great leaders," Taimin said. He said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country." It means that service to others is the highest calling. "We have a similar idea," Nari said. "Service to the Empire. But it's different. We serve because we must. Humans seem to serve because you want to." "Sometimes," Taimin agreed. "And sometimes we serve because someone needs help and we're there to give it." He looked at her with those dark eyes. "Like you. I didn't have to help you. I could have left you in the snow, but I couldn't. Not because of duty or honor, just because it was right." Nari felt something shift inside her. She had been saved by empathy, not duty. This human had risked his life, used his supplies, given his time, all for a stranger who could give him nothing in return. That afternoon, Taimin showed her more of his operation. They put on heavy suits to protect against the cold and walked outside. The wind had died down, and Nari could see the landscape properly for the first time. It was beautiful in a harsh way. Ice formations stretched for kilometers, catching the light and glowing. The sky was clear, showing distant stars even during the day. Mountains rose in the distance, white and jagged. Taimin's mining equipment was impressive. He had drills that went deep into the ice, reaching volcanic rock below. Conveyor systems brought minerals to the surface. Processing machines sorted and refined them, all of it built and maintained by one person. "This would take a Velkin crew of 20 to run," Nari said, looking at everything. "Maybe more." "I had to learn a lot," Taimin admitted. "Engineering, geology, chemistry. I studied every night for the first year. Made a lot of mistakes, but I figured it out eventually." There was that phrase again. Just figured it out. Like it was easy. Nari was beginning to understand that for humans, nothing was easy. But they did it anyway. They walked to a ridge overlooking a frozen valley. Taimin pointed to strange shapes moving in the distance. "Ice crawlers," he said. "Big creatures that eat the frozen algae. They're not aggressive unless you threaten them." Nari watched the creatures move slowly across the ice. They were huge, each one the size of a small ship. "Have you studied them?" "A little," Taimin said. "I'm not a biologist, but I like to understand the things around me. They're actually quite peaceful. I think they migrate based on the seasons, following the algae blooms." As they stood there, Nari realized something. Taimin had built more than just a mining operation. He had built a life. He understood this planet, respected it, worked with it instead of against it. He wasn't just surviving, he was living. "You could leave," Nari said. "Go back to Earth or find a colony somewhere. Why stay?" Taimin was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, "Heywan loved the stars. She always wanted to see new worlds, have adventures. We planned to do it together. When she died, I couldn't do it without her. So I came here instead. It's not what we dreamed, but it's something. And sometimes, something is enough." They walked back to the shelter as the light began to fade. Nari thought about her own life. She had seen many worlds, fought many battles. But had she really lived? Or had she just existed, following orders, fulfilling her role? That evening, Nari's emergency beacon suddenly activated. She had almost forgotten about it. Taimin had repaired it days ago, but it needed time to charge from the solar panels. "That's good," Taimin said, checking the signal. "Your people will find you now." Nari should have been happy. Rescue was coming. She would rejoin her unit, return to duty, continue her life as a warrior. But instead, she felt sad. She didn't want to leave yet. She wanted to learn more about humans, about this strange way of living. How long until they arrive? She asked. Taemin looked at the data. Based on the signal strength and typical response times, maybe 2 or 3 days. 2 or 3 days. That was all the time she had left here. Taemin, she said, thank you. For everything. You saved my life. The human smiled that gentle smile. You're welcome. It's what Haywan would have wanted me to do. Help people who need it. That night, Nari lay awake thinking. She thought about Velkan society, about the Empire, about her role as a warrior. She thought about humans and their strange, stubborn compassion. She thought about Taemin, living alone on a frozen world, still choosing to help a stranger, and she thought about what she would say when she got back to her people. How could she explain what she had learned? How could she make them understand? She didn't have answers yet, but she knew one thing for certain. The galaxy had underestimated humans. They weren't weak or unimportant. They were something else entirely, something dangerous and powerful in a way that had nothing to do with weapons or technology. They cared, deeply, irrationally, dangerously, and that made them special. The 8th day started badly. Nari woke to the sound of alarms, not her emergency beacon, but Taemin's proximity sensors. Something was approaching the shelter. Taemin was already at his monitoring station, watching screens that showed the area around them. His face was tense. 3 ships, he said quietly, landing about 2 kilometers from here. Nari felt her heart sink. She pushed herself up and moved to look at the screens. She recognized the ship designs immediately. Pirates, the same ones who had shot her down. They tracked my beacon signal, she said. They're coming to finish what they started. Taemin pulled up more data. I count 12 heat signatures. They're all armed. This isn't good. Nari tried to stand straight, but pain shot through her wing. She was stronger than a week ago, but far from fighting condition. She couldn't fly, couldn't move at full speed, couldn't fight like a warrior should. You need to hide, she said to Taemin. These are Krellian pirates. They're dangerous. They'll kill anyone they find. Taemin looked at her. And what about you? I'm already dead if they find me, but you can hide. This planet is big. They won't search everywhere. To her surprise, Taemin shook his head. No, this is my home. I'm not hiding. Don't be foolish, Nari said urgently. You're one human. They're 12 trained pirates. You'll die. Maybe, Taemin said calmly. He moved to a cabinet and started pulling out equipment. But I know this planet. They don't. That gives me an advantage. Nari watched in disbelief as the human gathered supplies, mining explosives, cable, tools, even some of his cooking chemicals. What are you doing? Preparing, Taemin said simply. If they want to fight, I'll give them one. He pulled out a worn laser cutter, the kind used for mining. It wasn't a weapon, but it could cut through metal. Not much, he admitted, but it's something. Nari felt anger and frustration. This human had saved her life. She couldn't let him die fighting her battle, but she was too weak to fight properly, and Taemin clearly wasn't going to hide. At least let me help, she said. I'm a trained warrior. I know tactics. Taemin nodded. Good. Then help me plan. They worked quickly. The pirates were moving slowly, being cautious. That gave them maybe an hour. Taemin knew every meter of the area around his shelter. He knew where the ice was weak, where the geothermal vents ran close to the surface, where the terrain could be used as cover. We can't fight them directly, Nari said, looking at the maps. But we can slow them down, separate them, make them afraid. Guerrilla tactics, Taemin said. Hit and run. Nari was impressed. You know military strategy? I read a lot, Taemin said. History was my subject, remember? Humans have been fighting wars for thousands of years. We learned a few things. They set traps. Taemin placed mining charges under weak ice, rigged to detonate when someone walked over them. He set up false heat signatures using his geothermal equipment, making it look like people were in places they weren't. He even used his mining drills to create unstable areas that would collapse under weight. Nari contributed what she could. She helped position the traps based on how soldiers would move. She identified good ambush points. Together, they turned the area around the shelter into a maze of dangers. "They'll expect me to be alone and weak," Nari said. "They won't expect resistance." "Good," Taemin said. "Fear is a weapon too." An hour later, the pirates reached the outer perimeter. Nari watched on the monitors as they spread out in a standard search pattern. They were professionals, moving carefully with weapons ready. Their leader was easy to spot. A big Krellian named Vosk, walking in the center of the group. Nari had fought Krellians before. They were tough, strong, and mean. The first trap triggered when two pirates walked over weak ice. The charges blew and both of them fell into the freezing water below. Their screams were cut off quickly by the cold. The other pirates stopped, suddenly wary. Good. They were thinking now, not just advancing. Taemin moved to the shelter's exit. "Stay here and monitor them," he told Nari. "Tell me where they are." "Where are you going?" Nari demanded. "Hunting," Taemin said, and before she could stop him, he was gone into the snow. Nari watched the monitors with growing anxiety. She could see Taemin moving through the ice formations, invisible in his white suit. She could see the pirates spreading out more, being more careful. One pirate separated from the group, checking a heat signature that Taemin had set up. Taemin appeared behind him like a ghost. The laser cutter flashed once, and the pirate went down. Taemin was gone before anyone noticed. Vosk was shouting orders now, his voice carrying across the ice. He was angry and confused. 2 dead, 1 missing. They couldn't even see their enemy. Another trap triggered. A drill Taemin had rigged started up, creating vibrations in the ice. 3 pirates went to investigate. The ground beneath them collapsed, dropping them into a geothermal vent. Nari didn't need to watch to know they didn't survive. Now the pirates were scared. Nari could see it in how they moved, bunched together, weapons pointing everywhere. 7 left, including Vosk. Taemin's voice came through the communication system. "How many?" "7, Nari replied. "They're grouped near the second ice ridge." "Good. Tell me when they move." The pirates started advancing again, but slower now. They were checking every step, every shadow. It would take them another hour to reach the shelter at this rate. Taemin appeared on the ridge above them. He threw something down. The pirates scattered, expecting an explosion. Instead, it was just rocks. While they were confused, Taemin triggered another trap. Ice formations collapsed, crushing 2 more pirates. 5 left. Vosk was screaming now, firing his weapon randomly into the snow. His crew was panicking. They had come expecting an easy kill, and instead they were being picked apart by an enemy they couldn't find. But then, something went wrong. One of the pirates got lucky, spotting Taemin as he moved between positions. The pirate fired. Taemin dove behind cover, but Nari saw him clutch his side. He was hit. "Taemin!" Nari called into the communicator. "I'm okay," he replied, but his voice was strained. "Just a graze. Keep watching." But now the pirates knew where he was. They were advancing on his position, moving fast. 5 armed pirates against 1 injured human. The odds were terrible. Nari made a decision. She couldn't let Taemin die. Not after everything he had done for her. She grabbed a piece of metal pipe from Taemin's supplies and headed for the exit. Her wings screamed in pain, her ribs ached, but she pushed through it. She was a Velkan warrior. Pain was just information. She came out of the shelter and screamed a Velkan war cry. The sound echoed across the ice, loud and terrifying. The pirates turned, seeing her for the first time. Nari charged. She was hurt and slow, but she was still dangerous. She slammed into the first pirate with the pipe, breaking his weapon. She used him as a shield when another fired, then threw him into a third. Taemin used the distraction to move. His laser cutter flashed, taking down another pirate. 4 left, including Vosk. But Nari's strength was failing. She fell to one knee, gasping. Vosk laughed and aimed his weapon at her. Then Taemin appeared, positioning himself between them. "No," he said simply. Vosk fired. Taemin triggered the final trap. The entire area around them was wired with charges connected to the shelter's geothermal reactor. When they blew, the ground erupted with heat and steam. Nari felt Taemin grab her and drag her toward a mining tunnel. Behind them, the explosion grew bigger as the reactor overloaded. They ran through the tunnel as the world collapsed behind them. They emerged half a kilometer away, gasping and burned. The shelter was gone, consumed by the explosion. But so were the pirates. Nari could see their ships in the distance, starting to take off. The survivors were fleeing. Taemin collapsed in the snow. Nari crawled to him and saw the wound in his side was worse than he'd said. There was a lot of blood. "You're hurt," she said. "So are you," Taemin replied weakly. "Guess we're even now." Nari laughed despite everything. This crazy human had just destroyed his own home to save her, and he was making jokes about it. They sat in the snow and cold, both bleeding, both exhausted. Nari used what was left of Taemin's medical supplies to treat his wound. It wasn't as bad as it looked. The shot had gone through the fleshy part of his side without hitting anything vital. She cleaned it and bandaged it as well as she could with shaking hands. "You're home," Nari said quietly. "Everything you built. It's gone." Taemin looked back at where his shelter had been. Now there was just a crater of melted ice and twisted metal. 3 years of work, destroyed in minutes. "Things can be rebuilt," he said. "Lives can't. You're alive. I'm alive. That's what matters." Nari felt tears forming in her eyes, something Velkans rarely did. "You barely know me. I'm not worth all this." "Every life is worth it," Taemin said firmly. "That's what makes us human. We don't calculate value. We just help." They stayed there for a while, gathering their strength. The cold was getting worse now that they didn't have shelter. They would need to move soon or freeze. "My emergency beacon is still working," Nari said, checking her suit's display. "My people should arrive within a day, maybe less." "Can you last that long?" Taemin asked. Nari looked at him. "Can you?" He smiled weakly. "I've survived worse." She doubted that, but didn't argue. Instead, she helped him stand, and together, they started walking. There were some caves to the north, natural formations in the ice. Not warm, but better than being exposed to the wind. They reached the caves as darkness fell. Inside, they huddled together for warmth. Taemin's body heat was weaker than hers, but it helped. They shared what little food and water they had left. "Tell me about the Empire," Taemin said as they waited. "What will you do when you get back?" Nari thought about it. "I don't know anymore. A week ago I knew exactly who I was, a warrior. That was my purpose, my identity. But now you've seen something different," Taemin finished. "Yes, I've seen that strength isn't just about fighting. That courage isn't just about battle. You showed me that." Taemin was quiet for a moment. "I'm not brave. I'm just a man who couldn't save his wife. Everything I do is trying to make up for that failure." "You saved me," Nare said. "That's not failure." "HFY would have liked you," Taemin said softly. "She always said that people were the same everywhere, no matter what they looked like. That kindness was universal. I didn't believe her then, but maybe she was right." They talked through the night, sharing stories. Nari told him about her battles, her training, her life in the Empire. Taemin told her about Earth, about teaching, about the small joys of a simple life, about HFY and their dreams of adventure. As dawn broke, they heard it, the sound of engines, a ship descending. Nari's communicator activated. A voice spoke in her language. "Commander Nari, this is Rescue Ship 7. We have located your signal. Preparing to land." Relief flooded through her. They had made it. They were going to survive. The ship landed near the caves. Nari and Tai Min walked out to meet it. The door opened, and Velkan warriors emerged, weapons ready. When they saw Nari supported by a small human, they stared in shock. The ship's commander, an officer named Dai Jung, rushed forward. "Commander, we thought you were dead. We detected the explosion, saw the pirate ships fleeing. What happened?" "This human saved me," Nari said simply. "His name is Tai Min. Without him, I would have died days ago." Dai Jung looked at Tai Min with confusion and suspicion. "A human did this? How?" "He's resourceful," Nari said, "more than you can imagine, and brave. He fought the pirates with me, destroyed his own home to save my life." The Velkan warriors were muttering among themselves. This didn't fit their understanding of humans. Humans were weak, unremarkable. They didn't save Velkan warriors. They didn't fight pirates and win. "We need to get you to medical," Dai Jung said. "Both of you, come aboard." Inside the ship, Velkan doctors examined them. They were amazed at how well Tai Min had treated Nari's injuries. His improvised methods had saved her life when she should have died. They treated both of them properly, healing their wounds with advanced technology. While they recovered, Dai Jung accessed the data from Nari's suit recorder. He watched everything that had happened. The rescue, the recovery, the fight with the pirates. He watched it all with growing disbelief. He came to Nari's medical bay. "I've seen the recordings," he said quietly. "What this human did, it's remarkable. Impossible, really, but it happened." "It happened because he chose to help," Nari said. "That's what you need to understand. He didn't have to. He chose to." "I need to report this to command," Dai Jung said. "They need to know about humans, about what they're capable of." "Good," Nari said. "They should know." Later, when she was healed enough to walk, Nari found Tai Min in another medical bay. He was sitting up, looking out the window at space, stars stretched in every direction. "Beautiful," he said when she entered. HFY would have loved this view. "What will you do now?" Nari asked. "Your home is gone." Tai Min shrugged. "Start over, I guess. Find another planet, build another shelter. Maybe somewhere warmer this time." Nari sat down beside him. "I want to offer you something. The Velkan Empire has a tradition. When someone saves a warrior's life with extraordinary courage, we grant them the warrior's honor. It's never been given to a non-Velkan before, but I'm recommending you for it." "What does that mean?" Tai Min asked. "It means citizenship, a place in our society, resources, protection, respect. You would be one of us." Tai Min was quiet for a long moment. "That's very generous, but I'm just a human. I don't belong in your warrior culture." "You belong anywhere you choose to be," Nari said. "You've proven that. But if you don't want the honor, I understand. I can offer you other things. Money, a ship, help rebuilding your mining operation wherever you want." "I don't need payment for doing the right thing," Tai Min said gently, "but I appreciate the offer." Nari smiled. Of course he would say that. "Then what do you want?" Tai Min looked back at the stars. "Just what I had. A quiet place to work, to live. Maybe not somewhere quite so cold this time." "I can arrange that," Nari promised. "I know planets. I can find you a good one." They talked more over the next hours. Nari learned that the Galactic Council had been contacted about the pirate attack. The surviving pirates would be hunted down. Vosk had escaped, but he wouldn't last long. The Council didn't tolerate attacks on warriors. Before they reached the nearest Velkan station, Nari made her formal report. she detailed everything that had happened, including her observations about humans. She didn't exaggerate or romanticize, she simply told the truth. Humans are not what we thought, she concluded. They're not weak or unimportant. They're adaptable, resilient, and compassionate in ways we don't fully understand. They help others not because of honor codes or duty, but because they choose to. That makes them dangerous allies or enemies. I recommend we establish closer ties with humanity before our rivals do. Daijung read the report and looked troubled. If Command sees this, it will change things. Change how we view humans. Good, Nari said. It should. When they finally reached the station, Nari and Tai-min said their goodbyes. The human was being given transport to a colony world of his choice, with enough credits to start fresh. Thank you, Nari said, gripping his hand in the human gesture she had learned. For everything. You changed my life. You changed mine too, Tai-min said. I was just existing before you crashed, hiding from the world, but helping you reminded me why Hei-Wan and I wanted to help people in the first place. It felt good to matter again. You'll always matter, Nari told him. And if you ever need anything at all, contact me. I owe you a life debt. Friends don't keep debts, Tai-min said with a smile. They just help each other. Friends. Nari liked that word. As she watched Tai-min's transport depart, heading for a new world and new beginning, Nari felt different. She was still a warrior. That hadn't changed. But she understood now that there were many kinds of strength. Her people valued combat strength, physical prowess, martial skill. But humans valued something else. The strength to care, to help, to choose kindness even when it cost them everything. That was a strength worth respecting, worth learning from. Nari returned to her duties with the Velkan fleet, but she kept in touch with Tai-min. They exchanged messages across the stars. She told him about her missions. He told her about his new mining operation on a pleasant world with actual sunshine. And slowly, very slowly, the galaxy began to understand what Nari had learned. Humans weren't just another species. They were something special. Not because they were powerful, but because they cared. And in a cold, logical galaxy where most species calculated the worth of every action, that irrational compassion was the most dangerous force of all, because it couldn't be predicted, couldn't be controlled, and couldn't be stopped. Nari smiled as she read Tai-min's latest message. He had met other colonists, made friends, was building a community. He was healing. She had been wounded and alone, but a human had come to her rescue. And in saving her life, he had taught her something more valuable than any battle lesson. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is simply choose to help someone who needs it, no matter the cost.